Chapter 1. The Client. I was looking out the second-floor window of my office when I heard high-heel footsteps coming up the stairs, then up the hall. They became louder as she came closer to my door. Then they stopped. I could see a fuzzy silhouette through the frosted glass door of my office. She hesitated for a moment before knocking on the glass door. I yelled, "Come on in!" She did. As she walked across the floor toward my desk, I stood up to greet her. She wore a large hat and dark sunglasses, as if she were trying to hide her appearance. Her hair was tucked up under her hat. She had a slim figure and looked to be in her 30s. She wasn't the usual woman I get coming in here, looking to see if their husband is playing around on them. I wondered what would bring a fine, tailored woman like her to this side of town. She sat down in the chair in front of my desk. She removed her hat, and long dark hair fell down to her waist. Then she removed her dark sunglasses. She had the darkest brown eyes, and her lips were red, like a ripe red cherry. She reached out her hand and said, "My name is Mrs. Harrington, Elizabeth Harrington." We shook hands. "John Blake," I said. As I sat down, I wondered where I had heard that name before. She asked, "Do you do criminal investigations?" "Yes," I said. "How can I help you?" She went on to explain. "My husband is James Harrington, or shall I say, was." "Was?" I questioned. "Yes. He was murdered." Then it hit me. Harrington. The land developer I read about last week in the Bay Times. You, Mrs. Harrington, are the cops' main suspect. The headline read, "Where's Elizabeth Harrington?" "Yes, I didn't do it. I was out of town at the time of the murder. Hell, I was out of the country all last week." "I've heard that one before," I say. "No, it is the truth, honest. James was alive when I left him. Like I said, I didn't do it." "Okay, Mrs. Harrington, now tell me what happened." She went on to explain. "It's no secret that my husband and I have not been getting along lately, and I did threaten to kill him in front of 100 witnesses." "You what?" "Yes, but that's all it was, a threat. We had a big fight at the rewards dinner." She started to cry. "I did not kill my husband." "Okay, Mrs. Harrington, settle down." I gave her some tissue. "I'm okay now, thanks. As I was saying, we had a quarrel and I yelled, 'I could kill you!' I then stomped out of the banquet hall, went home and packed a bag, called a taxi, and went to the airport." "What time, Mrs. Harrington?" "Time? Oh, about 8:45 to 9 p.m., somewhere about there. I don't know for sure." "That's okay. The taxi company will have records of your pickup and drop-off. Was the taxi Bay City cab?" "Yes, Mr. Blake. I didn't even know my husband was murdered until I got back into town. That's when my girlfriend Donna finally got hold of me on my cell and tipped me off that the police were looking for me." "Your cell?" "Yes." "I hope you turned it off when you finished talking." "No, I didn't." "Turn it off now, and don't turn it back on." "Okay." "It is off. Why?" "The police can track your cell phone." "Do you mean the police could come here?" "Yes, but they would have been here by now." John gets up and looks out his windows. "Okay, good. No sign of the cops. Now where did you go?" "Go?" "Yeah. You mentioned that you took a cab to the airport." "I went to Vancouver, then over to the island, you know, in Canada. It just so happens it was the first flight out of Bay City. There was one seat left, so I took it. It left at 10:45 p.m. "That's good to know, Mrs. Harrington. These times can be checked." "Mr. Blake, when was the last time you saw the stars? I mean, really saw them?" "You can't see much of the stars in Bay City because of all the smog." "Well, on Vancouver Island you can." "Yeah, I'm sure you can." John returns to the matter at hand. Now, I'm sure a case like your husband's murder would have made the Canadian networks. Yes, it probably did, but I didn't watch TV or listen to the radio while I was away. I even turned off my cell. I didn't turn it back on until I was on my way home in a rental car. I was out walking the beach, shopping, to get my thoughts together. Elizabeth says, "So, can you help me, Mr. Blake?" "Yes, I can, but first, how did you get back into the country without the police picking you up?" "Well, it just so happens that my plane was rerouted to Maine because of the fog." "Yeah, it was foggy earlier." "I rented a car and drove the rest of the way home. I turned my phone on when I came into town." "But surely the police would be working your credit cards." "I didn't use credit. I got some cash at the airport ATM." "That's the last time you used your card?" "Yes." "So, the police probably know you left town." "I guess so." "You were lucky they didn't have airport police pick you up." "I got the cash just before I boarded the plane." "Are you sure you're telling me the truth?" "Yes, I swear it. My husband is very possessive. I didn't want him to find me. I wanted to be left alone. I still have a passport in my maiden name. I use it when I need to get away from James. He always tries to find me and bring me home. He doesn't know I still have it. This is what I do when I need time to myself." "So you've done this before?" "Yes, a few times. But like I said, I didn't even know of James's murder until I got back into town. You have to believe me, Mr. Blake." "I do, Mrs. Harrington. But why Vancouver?" "Like I said, it was the first plane out of the city. You see, Mr. Blake, you just have to help me clear this mess up." "All right, Mrs. Harrington, I will. My fee is $1,000 a day, plus expenses." She reaches into her handbag and pulls out $2,000. "Is this enough to get started?" "Yes, it is, thanks. Would you like a receipt?" "No, I trust you, Mr. Blake." "Thanks. I'll put a receipt in my filing cabinet." Just then Paula, my secretary, came in. "Good morning, John." "Good morning, Paula. Paula, this is Mrs. Harrington. Mrs. Harrington, Paula Peters, my secretary. Paula, Mrs. Harrington is our new client." Paula shakes Mrs. Harrington's hand. "Very pleased to meet you, Mrs. Harrington." "Pleased to meet you, Paula." They share a smile. "Paula, put my other cases on the back burner until this case is over." "I'm on it." "We're going to have to find you a place to stay, Mrs. Harrington." John looks out the window. "Is that your blue car parked on the street?" "Yes, it's the rental car that I drove back to town in." John starts to ask, "Paula, will you go?" and then turns to Mrs. Harrington. "Is your bag in the trunk?" "Yes." "Good. Paula, could you go and bring Mrs. Harrington's bag up, please?" "Yes, John." "Mrs. Harrington, do you have some slacks and blouses in your bag?" "Yes, I do. I picked some up in Vancouver." "Good. Could you go into the other room and change out of your traveling clothes when Paula brings up your bag?" Paula walks in with Mrs. Harrington's bag. "Thanks, Paula." Mrs. Harrington takes her bag from Paula and goes into the other room to change. John yells in through the door, "Do you have any shoes without heels?" "Yes, I do." "Could you put them on, please?" Mrs. Harrington comes out. "Paula, could you stand beside Mrs. Harrington?" "Okay, good. You're both about the same height and build." Paula quips, "Yeah, John, but I don't look as good as her." "Oh, Paula, you are a very pretty young lady." "Why, thank you, Mrs. Harrington. But wow." "Okay, ladies, please." "Oh, okay." "Now, we have to get you into a hotel without anyone recognizing you. Paula, you have short blonde hair." "Yes, Paula, that cut and color looks good on you." "Yeah, and it's all mine." "No." "Yes."